All right, welcome back. My name is Claire Adelabu Abdul Razak. And by the way, how is Ramadan and Lent fasting going? I hope it's progressing very well. And this may not be the first time we're having this coincidence, but clerics say it could be a divine design, because the next time we're likely to experience this coincidence will be the next 33 or 34 years. And fortunately, some of us may still be around by the grace of God to experience it. Anyway, let's get on with our business for tonight. Now, desert dates, alternatively called adwa in Hausa language, is mostly associated with Ramadan. It's perhaps the most frequently mentioned in the Holy Quran, and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him himself, would usually eat the juicy dates to break his fast, or even drink water if dates were not available. We're also told in the hadith that he equally instructed his followers to break their fast by eating dates because they are purifying. However, dates are highly associated with medicinal and phytochemical compounds, as well as food applications. Little wonder it is highly consumed by everybody, but especially in the northern part of our country and in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. Maimuna Garba takes a special look at the nutritional value of this adwa and other benefits of this wild fruit.
Desert date is a thorny plant species native to many parts of Africa and the Middle East. Locally, the adwa fruit is consumed as snack. The seeds are used in oil extraction and not, while the drawback of the fruit has a distinctive pungent taste.
The aqueous extract of the fruit is used in birth control. It's used as spermicidal. It is also used in whooping cough. It is used in managing skin infections. It is used to manage hyperglycemia, that's high blood glucose.
It is worthy to note, as experts opine, that both leaves, pulp, and seeds of desert fruits contains important nutrients, vitamins, and minerals, as it contains many other functional compounds like polyphenols, flavonoids, alkaloids, and saponins, a structurally complex phytochemicals which is important in the human body.
Local people also use this desert fruit as a treatment of some ailments like jaundice, malaria, fever, infection, wound healing, and many.
The fruit is usually at its peak of harvesting during Harmattan season and cheap, as residents patronize it due to its medicinal value that can cure cold, flu, fever, and other ailments associated with the cold weather, among others.
I take desert dates all the time because it is good for me and also protects me from the effect of the scorching sun. I eat desert dates because it can cure so many diseases, especially pile.
When in season, adwa is highly patronized and cheap.
I sell 10 small measures a day, but during its season, I could sell a bag. Majority of my customers are women, especially the pregnant ones.
Apart from its medicinal properties, the desert date is used as an ingredient for making some delicacies like porridge and soup. The bitter-sweet taste of the fruit stimulates one to crave for more. So, have a taste of adwa.
Well, quite surprising. I was wondering why it was called adwa and not dabino, the usual one we know. But I'll certainly look out for this one. It's also called desert dates. Now, it's surprising that in this modern age, men still blame women for not giving birth to baby boys. Now, even in our biology class, I remember very well, we were taught that men are the ones who carry the Y chromosome, of course, that bears the male fetus. Now, people are usually happy and in love when they get married, but things begin to change a few years after marriage, and especially if the woman or the wife continues to give birth to baby girls. Now, things could also deteriorate, and divorce usually sets in. So many marriages have broken up because of the blame game on who is responsible for the male child. Now, if you're still in doubt, our next story will bust the myth and reveal the truth about conceiving a baby boy. Sandra Akame, that's us.
Over the years, many keep wondering why some parents give birth to children with the same gender, which most times result to crisis among families, tagging it as heritable. For some families, having children of same sex affects their life satisfaction negatively.
If a woman keeps giving birth to female children, particularly, the husband worries, and the husband's people worry that she's not giving birth to a male child that will advance the name of the family.
It's not that the woman cannot give birth to the male child. It's what the man gives the woman, that woman will produce.
If Almighty Allah give you birth for female, he will say, hey, even a man, now I'm better.
Well, it takes two to tango, but scientifically, research has it that it only takes the spermatozoa to determine a baby's sex. Medical experts explain that the theory of X and Y chromosomes in parents' hormones at the moment of conception has an influence. They further hint on the possible ways of getting a particular sex of a child should parents desire it, although the chances may not give 100% results.
Chromosomes are aggregation of genes, okay? And every human being has 23 pairs, okay? 22 of them are what we call autosomes, and one of the pairs is what we call sex chromosomes. So of the sex chromosomes, you have in the man what one of them is called the X chromosome and one is called the Y chromosome. In the woman, both of them are X chromosomes. So usually the combination that leads to a male is the XY chromosome, while the combination that leads to a female is the XX chromosomes.
Science has come up with something where we can do X selection, embryo selection. We can hatch several embryos with spermatozoa, and when they begin to grow, the remaining cells, we can pinch a cell.
Thank you for this report. Now you know sometimes the XY and the XX chromosomes get complicated, especially for the unlearned, people back in the rural villages. But suffice it to say, as the woman said, it is waiting the man put for the woman, nine the woman they bring out. Anyway, male or female, every child is a blessing. And remember, for me, Adams, Omolasho in your children are our clothing, no specifications. All right, so let's move on to our next story, and this is a very interesting one. And I started this way. At the recent funeral service back, in Abombise, in Imo State, my home state, my colleagues who attended reported that the preacher was sharp, straight and frank. But there are assertions that men are the weaker sex got tongues wagging, and trust journalists, they immediately adopted the newsroom mode. Frankly speaking, there is inexplicable power and resilience inside the skin of a woman that science has not been able to explain to us. But the truth is that men also cry, and Tessie Omeru found out in our next report.
Boy child is often referred to as the strong gender, though human and so also culpable to emotional stress. But the age-long belief that men do not cry has over the years affected free expression of such emotions by the male gender. No wonder the campaign against gender-based violence and sexual abuse, observers say, tilted to favor more of the girl child.
Now, have you ever imagined that the boy child can grow with the trauma of once being molested? How much attention does the society give?
Peace Olawale is a clinical psychologist. She emphasizes that all genders are vulnerable to emotional stress and not expressing it could affect one's development.
As you're raising your son, don't just raise them to be providers or to be masculine, but ensure that they're able to communicate how they're feeling to you first of all, and then that would now translate into their interactions with other people.
Findings show that societal, cultural, and biological factors could be responsible that the male gender be trained the hard way and should not be prey to emotional stress.
Because of the societal demand on the man, on the male child, the emotional component of him is like kept aside. It's not nurtured. As a growing up child, nobody asks him, are you okay? Are you fine? It's always the girl child, how are you doing?
Male child should know that it's masculine. He has a responsibility. He has to be strong.
It's not mostly to be trained on a hard way before we will know that he's a man. And we should be given the opportunity to express his or his feelings.
But there are consequences which include unequal love for both parents by the boy child who is abused.
They can't beat what I chop for my father hands. So saying everything my sister they chop for no pay me. Now let my mother want no child. Man. Normally for school, he try. But concerning care, maybe say I will say, oh, they are my picking name, I do them well.
I like the both, like I said, but my mom first. Because she has done tremendously okay for me.
And so my girls, they prefer their father, the boy prefer me. So
Tessie, Mary, thank you. And I overheard my colleagues say men can't cry, but all I can say is that may we not encounter the unexpected that will force or compel tears out of our eyes. We have beautiful stories coming right away, but I'm delighted to announce a commercial break because that's what keeps Newsline going. Welcome back to Newsline, and indeed we do appreciate all our sponsors there and all of those commercial partners. Now, have you ever heard of the word nomophobia? Nomophobia. I only just checked it out myself after going through my colleague Safia Noma's script, and I must confess that everyone may be positively diagnosed. As the name implies, it simply means no mobile phone phobia, or simply put, addiction to phone use. But it's an addiction that has a propensity to generate into psychological medical condition when people become afraid of being detached from their mobile phones or even network connectivity. And it happened quite recently, a lot of calls, what's happening, what's happening? And I found out also that various psychological factors are involved when a person overuses his or her mobile phone. Now the burden of this problem is now increasing globally. So permit me to apply the brake and let Safia Noma Uche enlighten us more on nomophobic symptoms.
Importance or usefulness of the mobile phone cannot be understood in one story, as virtually everyone NTA News came in contact with had a mobile phone device. While some say it is for communication, others say it is for business. Majority of the youth say they use the device for entertainment.
For my convenience, I do listen to music just like you meet me now, listening to music.
Can you do without your phone in a day?
Sure. I can do without my phone even in a week.
With my phone, sometimes when I'm bored, I get to watch videos and check out things that can take away my boredom.
My phone is very important to my business.
Okay.
To communication with all those people that like my products, my business, all those stuff now.
I am very much addicted to my phone because with the phone you can do your business. As a media person, I don't use a laptop anymore. I use my phone to write my stories and whatever. Phone, I'm very, very much addicted to it. I cannot do any day without phone.
Different strokes for different folks, you may say. Psychologists, however, attribute causes of phone addiction to environmental influences, fear of missing out, and the anxiety to get instant communication.
Phone addiction is when an individual cannot be away from their phone for long periods of times. You're probably familiar with the concept of FOMO, fear of missing out. And so there's a new term that has been added, right? We're always adding new terms. So there's a new term which is known as nomophobia, and essentially it's similar to FOMO. It's the fear of missing out on whatever is happening while you're away from the internet and while you're away from your phone. So usually how this is manifested is that you see people who are having imaginations that, oh, their phone is vibrating even when it's not, right? So people are checking their phone every few seconds, or as soon as you wake up in the morning, the first thing that you do is put on your phone, or you don't even switch it off. Possibly you just, get up and the first thing you want to do is pick up your phone. You would have people who are waking up in the night to actually check their phone, and the result of this obviously is lack of sleep. Other symptoms that can be seen from this, right, or the effects rather.
The earpiece is an accessory that has given more credence to what could be regarded as addiction, whereby the phone can be used while attending to other activities like driving and cooking.
I can do without my phone. When I didn't have phone, I was living.
Phone is as important as life presently. Like in the night, if there is no light for me to charge my phone, I think of how I'm going to work the next day. So I must look for somewhere to charge my phone.
I won't say I'm addicted, but I love holding my phone. Mostly I use my phone to read, like read novels, and maybe I rarely use it to go on WhatsApp, maybe highest TikTok. So that is what I use my phone to do.
The use of earpiece on the mobile phone while crossing the highway has grave consequences. The advent of phone came with a lot of modernization. People get news as it breaks, get information, and almost get response immediately. Its effectiveness over the years is majorly to make work easy. Inasmuch as the mobile phone is important to an individual's life, there is need to note that excessive use of the mobile phone can have serious impact on the overall mental health of an individual.
Honestly, it can be very, very annoying when you get to see adults who, answering or taking calls while, trying to cross the expressway, the highways and all that. But someone said we're all living in an aging society where someday everything will be channeled towards artificial intelligence. Now, that's very, very scary, if you ask me. And that calls for face-to-face interaction. The real-world interaction is still the best way. Let's turn attention now to another condition, which is common with kids and toddlers. And I'm talking about bedwetting. And it's also common, especially with the boys. But because it is actually beyond their control. In fact, I do know some men now, some boys who are men now, who bedwet right into their senior secondary school days, but I won't mention their names, no matter what you say. But as time went on, they got over it. Bedwetting can also hit the adults too, and one can only imagine the shame, trauma, and agony that it brings with it. Tolulokpe Joseph is the next person in our next story, and Tolulokpe was bold enough to share his experience with our correspondent Walaji Akim in this report.
For 25 years, Tolulokpe Joseph was subjected to pains, fear, shame, insecurity, and low self-esteem as a result of bedwetting.
Having the bedwetting condition for over 20 years was not a joke at all. I was traumatized for a very long time. I had many situations of embarrassment when I was still with my ex. Yes, the relationship is no longer there. It's not that condition that actually dissolved the relationship. However, when we were still together, there was a time I passed my night in this place and this thing happened. It was a very shameful thing for me.
With persistence for almost 20 years, Tolulokpe finally came over bedwetting and is now a bedwetting awareness advocate. She is helping people suffering from the problem through an initiative she established, as well as books she has written.
I spent a lot of time on internet, reaching out to even urologists online, asking them questions, getting to know better about this thing. So I was able to find out many things that could be the cause. And it was then I started paying attention to my own urinary system.
There are many adults living with the condition and their experiences are not palatable.
It's sad to say, but I bedwetted till my first year in the university. You will say, wow, and I'm an engineering student. I did sciences.
Situations where kids are not managed properly, talked to, given a bedtime routine that helps. You see that the bedwetting lasts longer than it actually should.
Medical expert says bedwetting in children from birth to 6 years is normal, but when it exceeds 6 years, it becomes a source of concern.
Bedwetting can be due to the normal schedule development, but if after 5 years or 6 years thereabouts, a child still continue to bedwet 2 or 3 times a week for more than 3 months, that should be a concern.
Emotional trauma, stress, change of environment, and underlying health factors, according to medical experts, are some of the variables that can cause bedwetting. While proper monitoring and management are needed to help a child overcome bedwetting, for an adult, seeking medical attention and advice is the best option. Although Tolulokwe acknowledges the efficacy of prayers, she believes that bedwetting is unrelated to spiritual attacks, contrary to some assertions.
So Tolulokwe Joseph is actually a female. Sorry about that. But again, you know, her experience is a case of turning your weakness into strength. So it's one of the things we talk about, learning from the experiences of others. And that takes me to our next story. And it's about how, you know, one can explain the surge, or if you may, proliferation of baby farms or baby factories in our country, especially in the southeastern part of the country. Now, that's despite frequent clampdown by security operatives. Now, there are certain acts that are unimaginable. For instance, how can an old man forcibly go into a young girl just to get her pregnant? That happened recently in Anambra State. 16 pregnant girls, 8 children were rescued in a remote village. Fortunately, the long arm of the law caught up with the operators and they were arrested by the Rapid Response Unit of the Nigerian Police Abia State Command. Maybe Ifoma Ndokolie will give us a hint on how this was handled.
A building in Ihechowa in Arochukwu local government area of Abia State, 16 pregnant girls and 8 children were rescued from the hands of operators of baby factory. The police public relations officer, Abia State Command, while parading the rescued women, said 2 suspects were also arrested at the baby factory for their alleged involvement in the crime.
I know nothing about them. I'm married. I'm living with my family.
Special advisor to the Abia State Governor on Media and Publicity noted that the state government has zero tolerance for abuse of young girls and children, adding that the people involved in the case will all face the law.
Wife of the governor will do everything humanly possible to ensure that these girls are protected and they are properly taken care of, while we give the necessary support to our security agencies, especially the police, to ensure that those who are involved in one way or the other in enabling this are properly prosecuted. Whichever way you look at it, it's immoral, it's unacceptable.
The state government further assured that the rescued girls and their babies will be rehabilitated and reunited with their families.
All right, thank you there. You're watching News Line. Please bear with us as I call for another break to service our clients. Welcome back to News Line. If you've just joined in, and we are on the home stretch now. Violence against children is becoming another pandemic, not just in Nigeria, but around the world. And the internet is replete with gory videos of domestic servants who have been sexually violated or dehumanized by their guardians. Now the question is, whom do we blame? How do we deal with such women? And what legal rights do these maids really have? And of course, the next report is about 10-year-old Esther, who was allegedly molested, beaten to a stupor until she lost consciousness. Maureen Leo Ajom tells us more.
I received information about the plight of 10-year-old Esther from the Center for Gender Development, University of Calabar, and upon arrival at the institution, little Esther was seen on admission receiving medical attention after being rescued from the hands of her master.
It has been happening, but the one that broke the camel's back was on Wednesday night. This around past 10. My roommate was still outside the hostel when she heard Esther running out, and she fell on the ground and she was crying. So she rushed towards her, calling her name, Esther, what happened? And she then said that her guardian kicked her on the stomach and was beating her. So she started making video. At the cause of the scene, Esther lost consciousness.
I started standing and crying, standing. My mother used to say full side.
The irate students alerted the authorities of the University of Calabar that further directed the Unica Medical Center to ensure her resuscitation and further medical and social examination and treatment.
When I saw her on examination, I discovered that she was barely conscious. She was in a state of stupor, because stupor is the state of almost complete unresponsiveness. After about 4 hours, she became more responsive and was able to, attempt to respond to my questions, nodding her head, shaking her head, and then speaking in very low tones. In summary, she had been severely traumatized, both physically and psychologically.
What is now the major concern of the University of Calabar authorities and other concerned Nigerians over Esther's case is Esther's rehabilitation, and even the trace of her biological parents is in doubt. However, the National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons in Cross River State is on top of the matter and says will speak to the public upon conclusion of their investigation.
Please, let's take exception to such inhuman action and, of course, raise our voices against violence in whatever form. By now, most people know that the grass is not always greener on the other side. And, of course, the other side, as it is always believed, is usually, very green. But by the time we realize that the reverse is the case, or when it dawns on us that the other side is a desert, it's usually very, very catastrophic. Now, I'm recalling this cliche not just in reference to irregular migration or the Jagba syndrome, but in relation to those who indulge in extramarital relationships. It becomes catastrophic when a man cannot bridle his groins, when a man has unfettered extramarital affairs to the extent of going into his own daughter. Then there is hardly anything else he isn't capable of doing. This is the story of one Dangbudwe who allegedly killed his wife of over 40 years for confronting him over his abominable actions. Ijoma Ugweke took the pains to travel to Sim community in Kana, local government area of River State, which is 60 kilometers from Port Harcourt, to unravel the incident for Newsline.
Incest, rape, and all forms of violence against women have become very common recently. It is no longer news that many women, especially in the rural areas, are violated, and little or none of these cases are reported until it results to death. The case of Uwa Eenu Dewe, who was allegedly hacked to death in her farm by her husband of over 40 years, did not come as a surprise, as the children are witnesses to their father's extramarital affairs, As if that was not enough, he also sleeps with his eldest daughter. All the maltreatment from their father, they acknowledged, led to the death of their mother, and when reported to the community, were treated with kid gloves.
My mom was very healthy and strong. She was not sick. Nothing happens to her. She just left this house around past 2 in the afternoon. She left this house with cassava plate just for her to go and pour the cassava plate in the farm. She poured it and come back. When she come back, she started screaming with blood. She started screaming, my head, my head. I rushed her to ask her, what is the problem? She started screaming, my head, my head. Before she said that she was, when she got to the farm, labor by with my dad and Tuanu Doye come to that farm and attack her by beating her. So that was exactly what happened. I was like trying asking her more questions when she give up.
We don't want her to become anything in life. That is why he did that. And at the same time, this man, just like this, our last one, I've said it, he normally cooks separate from us, right from the time we were a little boy. I always call his brothers and his relation them, for them to come and settle peace. And they always come to. I can't count the numbers of times they have come here to settle peace, and the man refused to take it. If they settle peace today, tomorrow you do another thing.
The suspect, Dambo Dewe, who is a retired teacher, is now cooling off in police custody. According to the C community regent, Chief Benedict, Dambo ran away from the police since June 2023 and was finally rearrested in Bayelsa on March 7, 2024, while trying to get money from the bank. The act he described as unpardonable has thrown the community into mourning since the incident occurred.
You see, the day I was arrested on behalf of the children, and the community, the youth of this community, as a peaceful community, they would have burned this house. Because of the respect of the children, they would have burned this house. It went to state CID. So we condemn and we have removed him from the chairman, council of chief in Bra community in Sin.
The community is eager to see the outcome of the case as well as the children, and this led NTA crew to the River State Police Command to ascertain the level of the case, but efforts to get the commissioner to speak was fruitless.
All right, he's already beginning to serve his punishment, and since the police command in Bayelsa State is already on the matter, NTA promises to keep you informed. And by the way, we say a very big thank you to Ijoma Ugweke and the News Line crew for taking the pains to go there. All right, in another development, in the history of radio broadcasting in Nigeria, the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, Kaduna, also known as Radio Nigeria Kaduna, has played a very significant role as a unifier in all spheres of development. Now, through its broadcasts in English, Hausa, Nupe, Fofode, and Kanuri, the station has no doubt become the largest radio listenership in northern Nigeria. It was established 62 years ago and has become a constant companion for millions of people in rural and urban areas across the vast northern landscape. Mohammed Lawan Baba looks at the significant role of this historic legacy and efforts to sustain its contribution to national unity and growth.
Notable signature tunes of some programs played for more than 60 years at Radio Nigeria Kaduna. These programs still ring a bell to radio listeners nationwide. Established in 1962 by late Premier of Northern Nigeria, Sir Ahmadu Bello Sardauna of Sokoto, Radio Nigeria Kaduna contributes immensely in the development of Nigeria and the country at large. Even with the advent of social media, radio remains relevant. Little wonder this multilingual radio station maintains its status quo of serving the people in information dissemination and promotion of government policies and programs. Mohammed Ibrahim served as a zonal director and Director General of FRCN. Lawal Yusuf Saulawa was also Executive Director of this reputable media.
Do we need Radio Nigeria Kaduna? If we do need it, the government must pump in a lot of money to rehabilitate it. There is no two ways about it. You cannot allow an important radio station serving millions of people, serving within and outside the country, to lie fallow.
They should maintain and improve on what they are doing so that the station will continue to develop.
Hawa Saulawa and Suleiman Muhammad Kaura share their experiences as veterans who worked with Radio Nigeria Kaduna in the 60s and 70s.
None could compare with what we did during our time. They should, further develop themselves.
So Radio Nigeria Kaduna had been contributing positively to the social, economic and political development of this country. What we want is federal government continued support for operations to improve.
This is one establishment that you cannot get fake news. So why don't the government support the FRCN to achieve that role in national orientation, in spreading the national culture of patriotism and nationalism?
Here, an information from FRCN, you know that information is authentic. And just like I have said, is the funding. The government needs to improve the funding.
Staff of Radio Nigeria Kaduna are professionals.
Well done.
Government is, however, not unaware of this clamor to develop FRCN Kaduna and is not unrelenting.
Technology is moving fast. We can't stay behind. FRCN and NTA can't stay behind, and therefore there must be effort to, as we move forward, to ensure that they are in tandem with what is happening and best technologies around the world.
Radio Nigeria Kaduna is a household name in Nigeria and even some West African countries like Cameroon, Chad, and Niger.
Radio Nigeria, truly uplifting the people and uniting the nation. And I must say, I'm also a product of Radio Nigeria. All right, our last break is on cue. We shall take it right away. Now, sometimes you only need to lose one person and your whole world is depopulated. Engineer Labi Olatunde, head of procurement to the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, found himself in this situation when he lost his beloved wife, Bola Richa Alabi. Now, the remains of late Bola Richa Alabi has since been laid to rest at the Gudu Cemetery, Abuja, amidst tributes from dignitaries. Our correspondent, Omenka Amarachukwu, was also there.
In the journey of life, from dawn to dust, and from cradle to climax, one thing is certain: the final end to everyone's activities on earth. So is to Bola Rachel Alabi as she passed on recently. At the funeral rites at Estate Baptist Church, Abuja, was devoted to sober reflection and the call to all to please God and maintain godly love to each other.
But I'm telling you, as you are seated here with Christ, you have defeated death. I'd like to encourage you. There is hope for every believer. Sister Bola has conquered death. Will you join her? It's your life in Christ. In times like these, we need an anchor. In times like these, we need a Savior.
And one characteristic thing you see about her is that she's on the Bible, because that was her Bible. She has fought the fight. And I can tell us she has won the ground.
Contribution, their combined mission to work focus on alleviating the surface of orphans and the less privileged, which earned them a reputation as dedicated soul, committed to wiping away of tears, meeting the needs of the marginalized and the less privileged.
It was a touching moment at the graveside as her remains were finally committed to Mother Earth.
My advice to the husband is that he too that is living now should also try to hold on to God firmly and live a life that is pleasing to God.
Aged 50, late Bola Rachel Alabi was a staff of NAFDAC, left an indelible footprint in the stratum of her profession. She is survived by her husband, Engineer Alabi Olatunde, head of procurement in NTA headquarters, children and many relations.
All right, we have just enough time to say our goodbyes. So I'd like to leave you with the words of Orison Swett. There's no medicine like hope, no incentive so great, and no tonic so powerful as expectation of something better tomorrow. May our tomorrow be better than our today. It's goodbye from me and the production crew.